Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that, well, touches so many of us, often in these really quiet, isolating ways.
Mm,
It's that persistent feeling that you're somehow a fraud, that
yeah.
your successes aren't really deserved, and any moment you'll be exposed.
Yeah, that voice.
Exactly, that voice in your head whispering, you're just not good enough no matter what you actually achieve. Okay, let's unpack this.
So what you're describing there, that's known as imposter syndrome, or sometimes the imposter phenomenon,
Right.
it's this recurring internal experience of doubting your accomplishments and having this fear you'll be revealed as like an intellectual fraud.
And importantly, it's a psychological experience,
Yeah.
right? Not like a formal diagnosis you'd find in a manual.
Exactly. And crucially, it affects incredibly competent people. That's key.
And when we say incredibly competent people, we really mean it. Our mission today is to kind of distill what imposter syndrome truly is, why it's so pervasive even among, the most successful people out there.
And how it impacts us?
Yes, and most importantly, to arm you with some actionable insights, some strategies maybe, to quiet that relentless inner critic.
Yeah, find ways to manage it.
We've got a stack of sources here, everything from psychology papers to some really candid confessions from global icons.
Yeah, some surprising names.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if this feeling resonates with you listening right now, just know this. You are absolutely not alone.
Not at all. It's incredibly common.
So let's start with the core concept then. What is imposter syndrome like at its heart?
Well, our sources define it basically as this belief held by successful individuals that they're not truly capable, that they're just faking it somehow.
And living in this constant fear of being found out.
Exactly that. It's this deep-seated disconnect between, external success, the promotions, the awards, the praise, and your internal self-perception.
Yeah.
The term itself, it was coined back in 1978 by two psychologists, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes.
I remember reading that. They first saw it in high-achieving women.
They did, yeah. That was the initial observation.
Yeah.
But it was pretty quickly recognized as, well, a much more universal experience. It cuts across all demographics.
So it's not about actual incompetence.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The key here is the perception of incompetence, even when there's just overwhelming evidence of skill and achievement right in front of you.
The numbers really drive that home, don't they? How common it is.
Oh, definitely.
One study we looked at, it revealed that 84% of executives admitted to having this internal view of themselves. 84%.
It's staggering. And
Yeah.
some coaches we read even suggest, anecdotally of course, that the real number might be closer to, 100%.
Wow.
And another broader estimate puts it around 82% of people struggling with it at some point in their lives.
So a huge majority of us.
It's truly striking how widespread this experience is. Now, you will see prevalence rates vary a bit in the research.
Okay.
Anywhere from maybe 9% up to over 80%, depending on the assessment tools they use, the cutoff point.
Sure, methodology matters.
Exactly. But the consistent message is crystal clear. The vast majority of people will likely grapple with these feelings at some point.
And the symptoms, they probably sound familiar to a lot of listeners.
I think so. Things like recurring self-doubt, setting these incredibly unrealistic goals for yourself.
Right, perfectionism almost.
Or even self-sabotage. And then when success does happen, it's almost never attributed to personal skill or effort.
It's always, I got lucky, or...
I just worked myself into the ground, yeah. It's like that little cartoon, someone gives you a genuine compliment and your internal monologue is just, me, are you sure? You must be mistaken. Or maybe they're just trying to be nice.
Oh, that is so relatable, dismissing compliments like that. Which brings us to a really compelling point. The sheer number of, incredibly accomplished people who've talked openly about struggling with this, it just underscores that, achievement, external validation, it's no shield against this internal battle.
It truly does. It's such a powerful reminder that this is a human psychological phenomenon. It's not some failing of capability. Just consider some of these voices.
Yeah, I mean, even Albert Einstein apparently reflected on this. He said something like, the exaggerated esteem in which my life work is held makes me very ill at ease. I feel compelled to think of myself as an involuntary swindler.
Involuntary swindler. Imagine that. One of the greatest scientific minds.
Right. And then there's Maya Angelou, a total literary titan. She confessed, I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out.
After 11 acclaimed books, it's incredible.
And Michelle Obama, she shared very candidly, I still have a little imposter syndrome. It doesn't go away, that feeling that you shouldn't take me that seriously. What do I know?
Wow. Even someone operating at that level, it's a powerful reminder, isn't it?
It really is. And Tom Hanks, he talked about that feeling of, how did I get here? When are they going to discover that I am, in fact, a fraud and take everything away from me?
It seems almost universal among high achievers.
And I love how Tina Fey put it. She captured that internal struggle perfectly. She described this vacillation between extreme egomania and a complete feeling of, I'm a fraud. Oh, God, they're on to me.
That really nails the roller coaster, doesn't it?
It does. It's just striking that figures of this caliber, people who have excelled so demonstrably, can still feel this way deep down.
Mhm.
It really highlights that imposter syndrome isn't about your actual competence. It's just this mind trick, this persistent, unfounded doubt.
Exactly. And this actually leads to a really interesting related idea called meta-imposter syndrome.
Meta-imposter syndrome, what's that?
It's basically when you know that lots of competent people experience imposter syndrome. You see it in others,
Okay.
but you're somehow convinced that they aren't like you. Because you, of course, are the real imposter. Their imposter syndrome is legitimate self-awareness, but yours is the actual truth.
Oh, wow. That's like imposter syndrome about having imposter syndrome. Thinking everyone else is competent in their self-doubt, but my self-doubt is, well, accurate.
Precisely. It's that next layer of self-doubt kicking in.
So, okay, with all this in mind, what's really going on underneath? What are the mechanisms driving this? Why do our brains seem wired this way sometimes?
Well, at its core, imposter syndrome is really fueled by what psychologists call cognitive distortions.
Cognitive distortions, so like irrational ways of thinking.
Exactly. Faulty thinking patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And it often plays out in this kind of predictable cycle, sometimes called the imposter cycle.
Okay, how does that work?
So it starts when you encounter some kind of achievement-related task, a project, a presentation, whatever.
Right.
That immediately triggers anxiety and self-doubt. Oh, no, I can't do this.
Okay, the trigger, then what?
Then comes the preparation phase. But it's often one of two extremes, either intense over-preparation, working way harder than necessary, or procrastination, putting it off until the last minute, followed by this frantic, high-stress rush to get it done.
Right, familiar patterns. And despite all that internal turmoil, you often manage to succeed, right? You get positive feedback.
You do. But here's the crucial twist, the paradox. Instead of internalizing that success, feeling good about it,
You dismiss it.
you dismiss it entirely. You tell yourself things like, oh, I only succeeded because I absolutely killed myself working. Or, that was just pure luck.
Anything but acknowledging your own ability.
Anything but that. And that dismissal, that attribution of success to external factors or unsustainable effort, it provides maybe a fleeting sense of relief. But critically, it reinforces the core belief that you are, in fact, a fraud. It strengthens those imposter feelings.
Which just sets you up for the cycle to repeat next time.
Precisely. The cycle continues with the next task, and is all propped up by these cognitive biases, like discounting positive feedback, catastrophizing about worst-case scenarios.
Always imagining the worst possible outcome.
Right. And personalization, taking all the blame for any minor failure, but absolutely zero credit for any success.
It's amazing how our minds can rationalize away our own hard work like that.
It really is. And neurologically, there's stuff going on too. The parts of our brain responsible for rational thought and self-evaluation, like the prefrontal cortex, can literally get stuck in these negative self-talk loops.
Wow.
And our brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, can become overactive. It starts treating these self-doubts like genuine threats, triggering a physiological stress response, heart pounding, anxiety, that makes the feelings very hard to just shake off.
So it feels physically real, not just like a
Yes,
thought.
exactly. It feels visceral.
Okay, so beyond brain activity, what about things like our personality or even our upbringing? Do they play a role?
Oh, absolutely. Certain personality traits definitely contribute. Perfectionism, for instance. If you set that impossibly high bar, anything less than flawless feels like complete failure, which just feeds the imposter feeling. High neuroticism, which is linked to anxiety and worry, also creates fertile ground.
That makes sense.
And upbringing is a really significant factor. Think about kids who were maybe labeled the smart one or the talented one in families that put a huge emphasis on achievement.
Right. A lot of pressure there.
Huge pressure. So they often feel they have to constantly live up to that label. Any struggle, any difficulty isn't seen as a normal part of learning. It's interpreted as proof that they're not really that smart or talented after all. Proof of their inadequacy.
Yeah, I can see how that creates this intense pressure to maintain an image, to never show weakness.
Exactly. And it's interesting, too, to consider cultural contexts.
How so?
Well, there was a study on Turkish medical students that highlighted something interesting. It suggested that in more collectivist cultural frameworks, where there's maybe high parental investment and a strong sense of obligation to succeed for the family, that might actually amplify the fear of failure compared to more individualistic Western cultures. So our broader environment, our cultural norms, can definitely shape these internal experiences of self-worth.
That's a fascinating distinction. So before we shift towards solutions, maybe we should clarify something I hear confused sometimes. Is imposter syndrome the same thing as just having low self-esteem?
That's a really excellent question, and it's important to distinguish them. While they can definitely overlap and feed into each other, they are distinct concepts.
Okay.
Imposter syndrome is specifically about doubting your success and achievements despite clear evidence. It's that feeling of being a fraud in your accomplishments. And often, it's kind of domain-specific,
Meaning?
meaning you might feel highly confident in your personal life or hobbies, but feel like a complete imposter in your career, for example.
Right. Whereas low self-esteem is more pervasive.
Exactly. Low self-esteem is a more general negative self-perception. It's about judging yourself harshly overall, focusing on flaws, feeling inadequate across multiple areas of your life.
So they can coexist.
They definitely can. Having low self-esteem might make you more vulnerable to developing imposter feelings when you do succeed. And experiencing imposter syndrome constantly can certainly erode your overall self-esteem over time. But they aren't identical.
That clarification is helpful. Okay, so understanding this phenomenon better, let's talk about Dr. Valerie Young's work. She identified 5 distinct types, or sort of phases, of imposter syndrome.
It's a really useful framework.
And it seems powerful because recognizing your specific type isn't just about putting a label on it, right? It's about pinpointing the exact mental trap you tend to fall into.
Precisely. That awareness is your first and maybe most potent weapon against it. Knowing the pattern makes it easier to interrupt.
So let's walk through these archetypes. First up, the perfectionist.
Right. The perfectionist focuses almost entirely on how things are done. For them, competence means a totally flawless performance, 100%, every single time.
Wow, that's an impossible standard.
It is. So even a minor typo, forgetting one tiny detail in a presentation, that can feel like utter failure. It proves they're not perfect, therefore not competent.
And this drives them to over-prepare.
Exactly. They over-prepare like mad, which often leads to success. But that success just reinforces their belief that only that level of extreme perfect effort is acceptable.
What's the key insight for them?
It's really about embracing good enough. Learning that excellence isn't the same as perfection. Maybe adopting something like the version 1 mentality from software. Get something good out there. Don't wait for unattainable perfection.
Okay, good advice. Then there's the superwoman or superman.
Ah, yes. These individuals are often convinced they're frauds surrounded by genuinely competent colleagues.
So they feel they have to work harder.
Way harder. They overcompensate by working longer hours, taking on more projects than anyone else, constantly pushing themselves to prove their worth.
That sounds exhausting.
It leads straight to burnout. They're tirelessly chasing external validation, often sacrificing their personal life, their well-being. Their sense of worth gets completely tied to their output, not their inherent value.
Okay. Next up, the natural genius.
The natural genius operates under the belief that true competence means success should come easily, effortlessly.
Like if you're really smart, you shouldn't have to try hard.
Exactly. So if they have to struggle, if they need to put in significant effort to master something new, they see that struggle itself as undeniable proof that they aren't truly gifted or competent. The effort feels like evidence of inadequacy.
Wow, that's a tough one. Fourth is the soloist.
Soloists believe that true competence means accomplishing everything completely alone.
So asking for help is bad.
For them, asking for help is perceived as a major sign of weakness, an admission of inadequacy. They really struggle with delegating tasks or even collaborating effectively because they feel they must prove their worth through purely individual effort. They often end up taking on way too much.
I can see how that would be limiting. And finally, the expert.
The expert measures their competence primarily by what and how much they know or can do.
Okay.
They live in constant fear of being exposed as unknowledgeable or unskilled, so they feel like they never know enough.
Which leads them to
An endless pursuit of more information, more training, more certifications. They might delay starting projects or sharing their work until they feel they've absorbed every single piece of related information, often long past the point of diminishing returns.
Right, getting stuck in the learning phase, understanding which of these phases, or maybe a combination, resonates with you personally seems like a really powerful first step.
It really is. Self-awareness is key.
So, okay, we've defined it, we've seen how common it is, even among icons, we've looked at the roots and the types. What does all this mean for us, for you listening? What are the actionable strategies to actually start silencing that inner critic and truly own our achievements?
Yeah, let's pivot to solutions. We do have some concrete, evidence-based strategies drawn from our sources. First, a really important cognitive approach. Recognize and reframe your thoughts.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, the first step is just noticing when that imposter voice starts talking. Acknowledge it consciously. You can even label it in your head. Ah, there's that imposter syndrome talking again.
Just naming it can help detach from it a bit.
Exactly. It helps you see it as a pattern of thought, not necessarily the objective truth about your abilities.
And then the reframing part, how do we actively change those negative thoughts?
This is where evidence comes in. You need to actively gather concrete proof of your competence. One great technique is creating a brag file.
A brag file. Tell me more.
It can be a digital folder, a physical notebook, whatever works. But you consciously collect all your accomplishments, positive feedback emails, notes of appreciation, successful project outcomes.
Okay, tangible proof.
Tangible proof. Then, when that self-doubt inevitably creeps in, you physically review this file. It serves as objective evidence to counter the negative feelings.
That makes sense. Countering feelings with facts.
Precisely. And then you need to actively re-script your internal narrative. When you catch yourself thinking, oh, I just got lucky, consciously practice rephrasing it. No, I succeeded because I was well prepared and I worked hard. Or, I succeeded because I have the skills for this.
It takes practice, I imagine.
It definitely takes conscious effort and repetition. Another helpful technique here is decatastrophizing.
Confronting the worst case scenarios.
Yeah, ask yourself, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen if I'm not perfect? Or, what if someone does find out I don't know everything? Usually when you actually spell out the worst case scenario, you realize it's not nearly as catastrophic as your anxious mind makes it out to be. That helps regain a sense of control.
That sounds like a really powerful way to sort of recalibrate your brain's fear response.
It is, and specifically for those perfectionist types we talked about, it's crucial to actively embrace good enough. Really internalize the difference between striving for healthy excellence and demanding absolute crippling perfection.
Learning that not everything requires 100% maximum effort.
Exactly. Be selective. Decide where you truly need to invest that top-tier energy and allow other things to be good enough, remembering the value of just getting started, putting out that version 1.
I remember earlier you mentioned mindfulness being effective too.
Yes, mindfulness is a really powerful tool here. The practice of being fully present in the moment, non-judgmentally observing your thoughts and feelings.
How does that help with imposter syndrome specifically?
Well, it helps you detach from those spiraling self-critical thoughts. You learn to notice them without immediately buying into them or letting them define you. That study we mentioned from Marmara University on medical students,
Right.
it found that higher mindfulness scores were significantly associated with lower levels of imposter syndrome. Mindfulness promotes self-awareness and emotional regulation, key skills for managing stress and those harsh self-critical thoughts.
And that same study had that interesting finding about extracurricular activities, didn't it?
It did. That was fascinating. Engaging in just 1 hour or more per week of activities like sports, social clubs, or artistic pursuits was linked to significantly lower imposter syndrome scores.
Why do you think that is?
Well, the likely reasons are multifaceted. These activities offer a necessary break from constant academic or work pressures. They foster personal growth, maybe building skills in totally different areas.
Gives you another area to feel competent in.
Exactly. Plus self-expression, building a stronger social identity outside of work or studies, and just generally reducing stress. They provide alternative avenues for feeling successful and finding a sense of belonging.
That makes a lot of sense, diversifying your sense of self-worth. Now, for people who feel like they need maybe more structured support, what options are out there?
Therapeutic support can be incredibly beneficial. Certain therapy approaches are particularly well-suited.
Like
Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is excellent. It directly targets identifying and challenging those negative thought patterns and cognitive distortions we talked about. Okay. And dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, is also very helpful. It focuses more on skills like emotional regulation, distress tolerance, and mindfulness, all really useful for managing the intense feelings that often come with imposter syndrome. Both are designed to help you essentially rewire those ingrained negative self-talk loops.
So lots of individual strategies, but it feels like the environment around us matters too. Building a supportive ecosystem seems really important because, as you said, imposter syndrome often thrives in isolation, right?
Oh, absolutely. Isolation is like fuel for the imposter fire. So a huge step is simply to share your feelings.
Talk about it.
Yes, talk to a trusted mentor, a supportive colleague, a friend, or of course a therapist. Just verbalizing those feelings can be incredibly powerful. It helps normalize the experience.
And you often find others feel the same way.
Yeah, very often. Hearing "me too" is incredibly validating and reassuring. It breaks that isolating belief that you're the only one who feels like a fraud.
And what about the role of, say, institutions, like our workplaces or universities? How can they help foster a more supportive environment?
That's a critical piece of the puzzle. Our sources really highlight that institutions have a crucial role to play. They can implement things like formal mentorship programs.
How does that help specifically?
Pairing individuals, especially students or junior employees, with mentors, perhaps from similar backgrounds, can provide crucial validation, guidance, and help build belief in their potential. Seeing someone like you succeed is powerful.
Oh, okay. What else?
Offering practical skill-building workshops can also make a difference. Things like presentation skills, networking strategies, even workshops specifically on developing a growth mindset to help reframe challenges and setbacks.
So building concrete skills and also shaping the right mindset.
Exactly. And fostering community-building initiatives is key, too. Things like peer-led discussion panels, employee resource groups, or cultural organizations can create a vital sense of belonging.
Which combats the isolation.
Precisely. And perhaps most importantly, institutions need to actively cultivate a culture of openness, collaboration, and psychological safety.
Psychological safety, meaning it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yes, where it's okay to ask questions, admit you don't know something, make mistakes without fear of harsh judgment, where mistakes are genuinely treated as learning opportunities, not failures.
That sounds like a healthier environment for everyone, not just those with imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. And simple things like regularly acknowledging and celebrating accomplishments, both big and small, can go a long way in reinforcing people's sense of competence.
So tying back to the soloist type, asking for coaching or help isn't a sign of weakness in that kind of environment.
Quite the contrary. In a psychologically safe environment, asking for help is recognized as a sign of strength, of self-awareness, and a commitment to growth. It actually deepens relationships and builds trust rather than revealing some imagined inadequacy.
Wow. Okay, what a deep dive this has been into unmasking your inner imposter.
Right.
We've really covered a lot of ground, what it is, why it's just so common, even among most accomplished people, how it impacts us day to day, those different types, and crucially, some tangible strategies to start quieting that inner critic.
Yeah, hopefully giving people some tools.
Absolutely. I think the key takeaway for me is that feeling like an imposter is a shared human experience. It's not some unique personal failing. And importantly, it doesn't have to control you.
No, it doesn't.
Acknowledging the feeling, starting to reframe those thoughts, building that evidence file, maybe embracing good enough and seeking support, you really can learn to own your achievements and stand more confidently in your abilities.
And maybe a final thought to leave people with, connecting this to the bigger picture.
Mm.
Given that our brains are fundamentally wired for both self-preservation, watching out for threats, and for social connection and belonging, what if that persistent whisper of imposter syndrome isn't actually a sign of your inadequacy?
What if it's not?
What if instead it's more like a misfiring echo of the very human drive to constantly learn, improve, and make sure we still fit in, that drive to get better?
So viewing the underlying drive as potentially positive, even if the manifestation feels negative.
Exactly. How might recognizing that underlying drive as a potential strength, this engine for learning and growth rather than just a flaw, shift your perception of your own potential and how you handle those feelings when they arise?
That is a powerful thought to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We really hope you feel a little more informed, perhaps a little less alone in these feelings, and hopefully a lot more empowered to move forward.